Story to order. In the heyday of radio, a young storyteller named Lydia Perera pioneered a novel form of audience participation. Her concept was to involve people in the process of story creation itself by holding a weekly contest that listeners around the country could enter from the comfort of their homes. Lydia would choose the most seemingly impossible and strange combination of words as the winner and then challenge herself to create a spellbinding story around them. Her program was appropriately called Story to Order. Listeners racked their brains to stump Lydia. One eager youngster thought he had done it when he requested a story about nothing, nobody and nowhere. But Lydia came through with a thumping good yarn built around his odd combination of words. Other winning word combinations were an ear of corn, a potato's eye, and the mouth of a pitcher. A pine needle, a phonograph needle, and a knitting needle. Scissors that won't cut, a door that won't open, and soap that won't clean. Each week the winner was sent a prize, and in addition, to reward the creativity of people who sent in their ideas but did not win the contest, Lydia drew some characters from the winning story on a postcard each week. NBC printed and mailed them to every entrant. Sometimes the stories came out fantasies, sometimes realistic dramas, sometimes burlesques. Some are funny, some whimsical, some realistic, and many were fairy tales. Jack Gould of the New York Times Radio Notebook wrote this about the program. Story to Order is fun for adults and youngsters alike because one can never be altogether sure how the narrative will work out or how the author will incorporate all the unrelated words. Lydia's stories focused on wholesome themes such as rescuing people, solving mysteries, finding things, love and friendship. Pieces of her stories sometimes contained rhyming verse and occasionally she wrote the whole story in verse such as The Tale of the Fiery Dragon. It was her concept that good stories did appeal to everyone. On the program, Lydia played all the parts herself, changing her voice to suit the characters. She created the voices of typewriters, toothbrushes, doorknobs, light bulbs and even a hard-boiled egg. She also had the assistance of a talented organist who wrote music for the show, and of some of the top sound effects men in the business. Ideally, she believed, the stories were for 8-year-olds, but actually the range of listeners was from 2.5 to 98, in all states as well as Canada. Lydia was called the Story Cook because she lured listeners into her story kitchen where she cooked up unique tales based on listeners' words. Time magazine brought Lydia to public attention by writing this. Storyteller Lydia Perera, Mrs. Will Marcus of Boston, Massachusetts is a smart young mother in her mid-20s. She is a rarity among children's entertainers since she has a sense of humor and a sense of children's dignity that keep her from acting either cute or full of fake wonder. Although the theater was her true love, Lydia took up writing because it created a job for her as an actress. The program idea was just something that came naturally since she had been telling her 13 nephews and nieces stories for a decade. Generally, a story to order took her about 3 hours to dream up and she tried to write them while her 4 children were resting. She flew weekly to New York Saturday morning immediately following her WBZ broadcast in Boston and rehearsed all afternoon with a music writer and a sound effect man for her Sunday NBC broadcast. Weather permitting, Lydia flew back to Boston right after her program to arrive at her home in time for lunch. Her husband thought her radio career was great, and did all he could to support and encourage her. Lydia believed that radio was an extremely powerful educational force, because whether parents approve or not, most of the children in the country had access to a radio set. Lydia's weekly Sunday morning radio program Story to Order started as a local program on Boston's WBZ in March 1944. Then, in 1945, the special format and its proven success on WBZ prompted the National Broadcasting Company, NBC, to broadcast it on radio stations nationwide. At that time local radio stations were just beginning to get programming from joining a national network, and Story to Order was offered to them. The program was featured in national entertainment publications including Variety, Time magazine, and the New York Times. Story to Order ran for 5 years on NBC from March 1945 to late in 1949 to an ever-growing audience around the country. You can listen to a few actual radio broadcasts by clicking on the links in the comments. The program had a devoted following and received 1,000 to 1,500 postcards weekly, totaling an estimated 250,000 over its lifetime. The audience was approximately two-thirds children and one-third adults. When Story to Order went off the air in late 1949, thousands of listeners wrote letters in praise and protest. In essence, they wanted Lydia back. Their comments are a lasting testament to Lydia and her program Story to Order. I am so mad about Story to Order leaving the air, I could bite clean through a 10-penny nail. I miss your program so much. I do hope it's no longer than the summer months that we're not hearing your stories. Dorothy Groff, Kutztown, Pennsylvania. Your programs bring before the public a marvelous feat of inventive genius. Your program should be regarded as highly educational and by all means keep it on the air. Martin Maurer, Edinburgh, Texas. Oh, please do continue your Stories to Order. We always listen before we go to Sunday school. Lynn Halamiak, 44, Pennsylvania. Don't you know that your program is the only one of its kind on the air? My children think you're awfully clever to think up stories on just 3 words. Please stay with us. Eileen Connolly, Battle Creek, Michigan. I wish you would continue your programs, for the stories give such a joyful lift to a person's day. Leota Jackson, Central Square, New York.